Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Catholics Live in Discipleship. I'm your host, Darren Nelson. One of the challenges that I face when I go into parishes and start helping them foster discipleship and create initiatives and ministries and new committees is effective data management. Now, hold on. Before you say, hey, you don't think this episode's going to be relevant to you, just give me a second. Hear me out. I go into parishes, and when we start establishing these new initiatives and ministries, and I'm trying to communicate with some of their key people, I'm given different email groups and different Excel spreadsheets, and oftentimes I find that their data is spread out. And recently, I was watching a webinar from a company called ACS Technologies. You might be familiar with them. And one of their software is called MinistryPlatform. And in listening to that webinar, it really dawned on me how important it is for us to effectively manage our data. It's another level, I believe, of good stewardship for the mission. I became so intrigued with this platform that I had heard about but never really learned about that I reached out to one of their senior solutions consultant, Matthew Hiracheta, to have some conversations with him. And that led to us having this conversation as a podcast to provide to you a way in which you can hear about this product, but also the way in which it addresses some of the challenges that I believe you face at your parish when it comes to effective and efficient data management. And it doesn't matter what level you are at the parish. You can be a ministry leader all the way up to a pastor. Effective data management really is about all of us, because whether you're a ministry leader with an email group or trying to track those who are in the parish who are participating, or the pastor who's trying to understand, hey, who are the new parishioners in the last month, the month before? How many baptisms do we have? How many funerals did we have? How many parents are active in the religious ed program right now? To see all this data right now, I believe is important. And this ministry platform helps us to see that. So let's jump into the conversation with Matt. And I hope that it encourages you to think about the way in which you become more effective at your parish with all this data, to become more effective stewards for the mission. And I will include in the show notes all of the links that we talk about in this podcast episode so that you can explore for yourself what I discovered. So let's jump into it and have this conversation with Matt Hiracheta about MinistryPlatform. Hey, Matt, want to welcome you to our podcast and just thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me as we talk about what I really believe is an important conversation around data management for parishes. So I want to welcome you and just give you the opportunity to introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit about your company.
Sure. Thanks, Darren. I really appreciate it. And I'm excited as well to be on this podcast with you. My name is Matthew Hiracheta. I am a senior solutions consultant here at ACST Catholic. I've been working with ACST Catholic for probably about 8 years now, coming up on eight. Has it been that long? So I work with dioceses and parishes all across the U.S. and Canada, serving them with the rest of the Catholic team here at ACS, and really provide them with solutions that are going to work for them based on what their needs are, and try to consult with them to find out what would be the best solution for them.
Yeah. And ACS Technologies, they have not just one, but they have several, right? Several.
Yeah, so there is a Protestant side to ACS. It's actually the um, it was founded in 1978 in Florence, South Carolina, which is right down the road from me. I live in the Greenville, Spartanburg area of South Carolina. But yeah, so it was founded in 1978, and they are a Christian-based, family-owned private company. We have over 50,000 clients. Some of them are Protestant-based, some of them are Catholic-based. We acquired PDS software, which the Catholic side is very familiar with, back in probably about 21 years ago now. But they were founded in 1978 as well. So
Ah,
we kind of merged the two companies together, which was wonderful for our Catholic audience. And so PDS has worked well with them for a number of decades since 1978.
yeah,
And so together we have an ACS umbrella family, right, of PDS, ACS, but now have really kind of graduated into the next generation of software in our realm, church software, as well as MinistryPlatform, which you got to kind of see during our webinar a few weeks back,
yeah,
which is it's very interesting to a lot of parishes and dioceses right now. And then we have other software as well. So it's not just the database software. It's things like our uh, e-giving integration with that, um, ways to manage mission trip and retreat management, connection cards for outreach, but also things like discipleship indicator survey and consulting. We provide website services as well as other things like Mission Insight, which we originally
yep,
got to speak about. A lot of dioceses use that as well in parishes across the U.S. for demographic data and insight. And so that's a very powerful tool as well. And so combined with that and other services like managed IT for phone and voice and learning management software for all of these different solutions, it's really very complete within
yeah.
this industry.
Yeah, and for the listeners out there, I can imagine at some level you might be saying, Darren, what, the podcast is really meant to help us grow in discipleship, fostering discipleship. Why data management? Well, as we were talking before we started recording, Matt, I think one of the most important things as we grow as disciples, or how this is related, is stewardship. And the way that I look at this, and I'm sure a lot of listeners who are either parish staff or pastors or key leadership, stewardship of good data at the parish is so important. I know one of the challenges that I faced when I was working only at one parish, but that continue to face as I'm helping parishes grow and work with leadership is the information of key leaders, all that data. Trying to, I would use Excel spreadsheets and
Yeah,
email groups and you know, um, but I'm talking about stewardship around data management that really helps us to understand how the mission is growing at the parish. And when I watched that webinar after having a few conversations with you about now MinistryPlatform, I really started to see the big picture of what you can see from that platform. That's why I'm excited to really have this conversation with you today. So why don't you share with us, so listeners, that's why I think it's important. Hang in there. I think we're going to learn something. If that's all we do is just learn about how this can support and intrigue us, I think that will be important. So, Matt, share with us, in a broad stroke, MinistryPlatform. and why parishes and dioceses are really starting to see this database as an important part of their mission, so to speak, at the parish.
Sure. Yeah. So mission uh ministry platform is really a centralized database, right? For um all the different areas where you may be collecting that information. Um, it could help manage things for you, like parishioner and household data, but goes far beyond that with things like managing communications and religious ed, being able to look at the reporting and see what you could do with that reporting when it comes to strategizing for the future or for things that you're doing right now and how you could improve those things. So really helpful in that sense. I talk to a lot of ministry leaders now, and they may be using three or four different things to maybe like track their religious ed or you know um, sign up sheets for registration, and they still have to enter it into this database over here, or reach out to someone who oversees that. So some of that data is kind of siloed and maybe hard to get a hold of whoever is in charge of that. Where this really kind of brings everything together in one centralized database. And as long as you have staff permissions, the correct permissions to access this data, it's a lot easier to find that info, to communicate internally what's going on, to maybe see lists of, who are my ministry leaders. Sometimes,
Mhm.
uh, you could talk to a pastor and they know what the ministries are, but maybe they don't know who's running it, and
Yeah.
or not that they don't know what's going on or anything like that, but it may have changed in the past couple months and they just weren't aware of it, and it just helps them stay on top of what's going on in those different ministries as well, and who those key leaders are.
Yeah, yeah, and one of the things that I believe we're going to get into in a few moments, and again, I'm always trying to think about the listener, those
Yeah,
who are listening to this right now. Um, when I watched the webinar, and that webinar link, replay link, I'm going to put in the show notes so people can see what we're talking about.
yeah,
I saw there's a dashboard, and when I saw the dashboard and how that dashboard really can be set up for anything you want to first see, and it showed what ministries you have at your parish and a chart, a graph of how many people are participating,
right.
and to be able to look at that like right now, that's huge. And the reason why that's important, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this, but the reason why I see it as important is when we're really talking about growth. And granted, we have to be careful. It's not always about numbers. However, when we do see growth, that's important. It
Absolutely.
helps us to recognize that what we are doing is working, and maybe what we are doing needs to be changed. Hey, the men's ministry hasn't grown in 2 years.
Right.
Why is that? We got to have a conversation about that. So that dashboard to me was just an awakening. And to your point about the pastor saying he knows ministries, but maybe not necessarily the leaders, especially when a pastor comes into a new setting. I just happened to be on the phone with a parish today that I do some work with, and they're putting together yet another Excel spreadsheet of ministry leaders to send to me for some updates on some things. Where this database that we're talking about, MinistryPlatform, it's all right there, and you can see it, and the pastor can log into it.
Right. Yeah, and so, when I'm speaking with some of those probably same churches that you're working with, right? When they have a pastoral change and a new pastor comes in, they want to put everything on hold for maybe, good while,
Yeah.
just so the new pastor obviously he's got pastoral duties, but also he wants to know different areas of the what's going on, how many different ministries you have, etc. That can take a lot of time, like you said, working, building yet another spreadsheet. Well, what if all that data was in one place where you could present it to Father and show him exactly what's going on? Like how many people are new to the parish? How many people have transferred over from a different parish? What is the how many people do we have in religious ed right now? Our RCIA programs. If you could show them that type of data and continue on with that data to build out different strategies or be able to pull it up in an instant and show those percentages, which you saw on our webinar. That's just very impactful. It helps the planning process. It helps you get a 360-degree view of your parishioners and your staff of what's going on at
Yeah.
the parish and at the diocesan level as well, if need
Yeah.
be. Mhm.
Yeah. In a minute, Matt, I want to have you lay out, what you see are maybe four key metric tools that Ministry Platform can help a parish with, and ones that probably most all of our listeners can relate to. But I just want to share this quick story. I'm working with, it's another parish that I'm doing some work with, and we are working towards putting together some committees that are an outreach committee, an adult faith formation committee, a family faith formation committee, all geared towards helping to foster discipleship and grow mission at the parish. Um, but we are also very keenly looking at the parents of the parish who are engaged, the religious ed families. And I think one of the unfortunate things, and I think we're recognizing this more and more at the parish, is that whenever we talk about the parents, we always seem to bucket them all together. Oh, the parents aren't engaged in their faith. And you know what? That's not true. It's
Right.
not true. There are parents who are part of the religious ed program who are very engaged in their faith. And then there's some who are slightly engaged. And then, yes, granted, there are those are who are not. They're disengaged. And I believe, once the data is in there, I believe Ministry Platform would be able to help a parish identify, hey, who are the engaged ones, who are the slightly engaged, and who are the disengaged? Because that's one of the conversations we're having is we want to we want to help each of these categories. Um, but I believe that what the platform can do is just by recognizing those who have been engaged, it can show you here are the parents. So I think that's one thing that I'm pretty excited about with this platform that would be able to really help a parish as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say, those four key areas that you could use for to measure metrics in the system would be, households and contact records, right? Going back to that and seeing like how many people are in the household, what ministry groups and religious ed programs you have, right? Which you could track into the system as well, and communications through email and texting. And the fourth one would be contributions, whether it's online giving or, offertory with cash or checks or maybe a non-cash gift. All of these data points can be tracked and measured and then kind of put into the system. And that's where you get your metrics of what you saw on the dashboards or on these charts that we could provide the better that we are able to understand that data, we could simply put it out on the other side and create these different charts for you, so it gets easier over time as you measure these metrics. So, and it's based on activity level. Like, did a certain person for, say, like religious ed, were the parents involved in, say, an event that you had at the parish? That's a data point that you could track and goes back into the system if they registered for an event.
Mhm.
Did they get a communication that was sent out to the parents of the fifth grade group? You can measure that as well in the system, and it comes back as a data point. How many emails or texts were sent out to this particular individual or household over the last year? And when's the last time they logged in to their parishioner portal to look at things or maybe update their household information? Maybe they had another child. Where are they in terms of that process? And all of these can be, tied back to the activity and further your measurements in key areas.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and when you were talking about the household, one of the one of the things I always help a parish work on is new parishioners and
Mhm.
making sure that there's a good new parishioner welcome process, you know, and that it's at the forefront of mission, so to speak, um, for the parish, because oftentimes parish parishes have new parishioners register. They might, they'll probably send a letter from the pastor saying thank you, but then what?
Right.
But then what? And there are, look, I don't want to put a big blanket on saying that parishes aren't out there doing something. There's some parishes out there doing some great things. And if you're one of them, maybe you can share on the Facebook group what it is that you're doing. Let us know what you're doing for new parishioners so we can learn from one another, or put some comments in the comment section of the either the podcast or the YouTube video. Uh, But to be able to, again, I'll probably always come back to the dashboard, because for me, visual is just so important. Imagine being able to see how many new parishioners do we have this week, this month, compared to last year, maybe.
Right.
Because whenever I put that in front of the pastoral council or any key parish leadership, one of the first questions that, wait, what? We had 30 new parishioners in the last 2.5 months? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was that?
Yeah.
Why,
And,
why was I not notified of that?
or, yeah, like it helps build an awareness. And wow, what are we doing to reach out to them?
Yeah. So, all great points, by the way. And every parish goes through this, right? Whether it's large or small. I think when you have great processes that could be set up like that, and then measured at the end, it's all wonderful, and it helps with the standardization of what's going on at your parish, or maybe another parish, to maybe adopt that and use that process to grow going forward,
Hmm.
right? So if you have certain steps, so in MinistryPlatform, you could set up things in your milestones or journeys area to where you have a new parishioner. What's the welcome process look like? Who's involved in that process? Did they get a notification that there was a new parishioner that just started? Um, where do we, what is the next step? And build these steps out within that journey to discipleship. So it makes it very, uh, I don't want to say easy because it's never easy, right?
Right, right, right.
But it makes it more of a standardized process on the back end of your administrative stuff. So you have more time for your ministry to work.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the other thing that I saw with the dashboard that really got me excited too is recognizing the ministry leadership of the parish. Just there it is, right there in front of you. Now, uh, listeners, maybe some of you work in corporate life where you're familiar with HubSpot or Salesforce, and you understand what I'm talking about with the dashboard. I worked with HubSpot, and that dashboard was very powerful. You could set up so many different things to be able to see, but to have that right in front of you, hey, here are the ministry leaders, and I found this interesting because we all do want to engage more people to help us be key volunteers or leaders, right? One of the things that you could set up, and I saw this in the webinar, is you can see, hey, the median age of a leader is this, you
Right.
know? And what do we often hear when we're talking about engaging people and bringing them into leadership? Well, we need to get younger people. And I'm at the age now, I hesitate to say that because I used to be the younger people.
Right.
Now I'm not.
Me too.
Um, but that's helpful for someone to see, a parish to see, key leaders to see, hey, over the last 3 years, that median age keeps going up because we're the ones who keep staying in. We're not fostering new leaders.
Right.
We're not fostering new leaders. So that's I
And
think.
maybe they don't know where to start because maybe, they're not aware of some of the participants in some of these different ministries, how well they're doing or progressing, right? Maybe
Mhm.
that's not being measured, but if it was, maybe they could see more of like, hey, Johnny's doing great, and maybe he could one day be our next ministry leader for this specific ministry or maybe a few other ones, and maybe he'd be willing to help out and jump in on these other areas where we need help as a volunteer. So how do we measure that? So you could go by based on activity, right?
Mhm.
And certain notes that you put into the system where it may just be in the group leader's head now, or in certain discussions, but maybe everybody at the parish, as far as staff, doesn't know that, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not being written down or it's not being logged somewhere. Um, these type of things can really go a long way going forward when you start planning like that, start doing these specific tasks and looking for these opportunities to have others help serve for the next generation,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Not just there, but if you have something posted on your website to where someone could look at all the opportunities there are to serve, it'll get more people involved and engaged and grow your discipleship that way as well.
Yeah.
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 And that's what you could do with MinistryPlatform. It interacts with most websites, meaning that we could set up a parishioner experience to take them through different stages of their walk with Christ. So it could be they just want to see what kind of information you have about your parish, right on your website as a beginning, as a start, right?
Mhm.
It's your digital front door to your parish.
Mhm.
Um, and then go from there to see your list of events or maybe what's going on in church news. Maybe Father has a message. Maybe it's time for registration. So you could put that in there. Maybe there's a newsletter, weekly newsletter that Father wants to put out, or the bulletin that you could have added to your
Mhm.
website. Um, it starts going from there to maybe I want to attend the fish fry. It's upcoming this Friday. Maybe I'm a, snowbird coming in from up north and I'm just down here in Florida hanging out for a few months, but I want to attend mass and maybe a few other things that are going on at the parish. So make it easy for them to register and see what's going on at your
Yeah.
parish, and then maybe take that a step further and provide opportunities to join groups that you
Mm-hmm.
have, like Bible study, like men's group, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, take it a step further. Well, I really want to get even more engaged in my walk and serve as you know, maybe a bus driver or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
At least it'll get the conversation started with a group leader that could be notified that someone registered for an opportunity to serve, and then go from there. Um, and this, I could get really granular with what Ministry Platform could do. I'll save it for right
Yeah.
now, but that's a great starting point for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you build more information, and as a parishioner or visitor wants to partake in certain activities at the church and maybe provide more information, filling out their profile, that helps in doing things like ministry scheduling going forward, volunteer scheduling, and becoming a good parishioner at the
Mm-hmm.
parish.
Yeah, in what you were just sharing, communication keeps coming up in my mind at the moment. And
Mhm.
um, something that a lot of parishes, I believe, still struggle with in terms of efficiency and effectiveness. And I'm thinking about one parish right now that I do work with, and when it comes to the new parishioner welcome process, and we include the process itself, the front office, the pastor, and the ministry that reaches out to that new parishioner, there's three, maybe even four separate databases being used, and that's not efficient for the parish. It just really isn't, and
And it's not because, if you're trying to have a cohesive message
mhm,
to certain groups, so say you want to send, messages to the parents of all your religious ed groups, right? You have to maybe generate a email list to do that and export it and put it into another system and, configure your message over there, send it out, and then wait for the responses. You got to log back into that system and look at the responses and, build out your different templates and things like that in there. And then, what a father wants to know about it. Well,
mhm,
then he's got to log into that system. Maybe he doesn't have login credentials.
mhm,
Maybe you need to just show him the analytics, things like that. Or, the second grade teacher wants to send out a message on behalf of father. That can become more and more complicated as you go down the scenarios there.
yeah,
And in Ministry Platform, it's a very simplified way to send out those communications through email or texting, or even, printing off a mailing list to send off to people or parents or whoever you would need to create that list for.
yeah,
So there's a multitude of ways that you could do that and track that information at the same time. Have the analytics that you need if you're sending out like a bulk email. How many people received that? How many bounce backs were there? What did the message look like? Do we have a log of that? It's all in one system. So it
yeah,
makes it very easy and efficient compared to maybe using two or three different systems.
yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm working with a couple parishes right now, and as this recording is happening, it's April, 2025, but it's April, and I say that because one of the things I'm working with several parishes is starting to think about next year's ministries and initiatives, and some people may be saying, "What, Darren, this early?" Yeah, this early, you know.
Mhm.
Um, that's a whole nother conversation, but in doing so, the front office needs to really understand how can we schedule them and see conflicts in the schedule and really manage all of this information that's coming in and to have again a great database, you know, one that you know and I'm hesitant just a little bit because I don't know your software as well,
Sure.
but the scheduling ministries with Ministry Platform and understanding that, is there a calendar app that's with this yet?
So you can tie these two events that you create within
Okay.
Ministry Platform. There is a way to connect this through a ICS feed to through our cloud services portion of it, which is a customization. But if you're using something like Google Calendar or Google as your emailing system now, there can be a tie-in to that, so you can put an external calendar on there, but you can create an event widget for the system, so any event that you have can be automatically put onto your website through there. No need for a webmaster or anything like that to go update that every
Hmm.
time. If you update it in the system, it pushes out to your widget on your website. So it makes it very convenient for people to see what's going on in that event.
Hmm.
Internally, there is a calendar in there for things like ministry scheduling, um, for lectors, ushers, things like that. If you needed to create something like that, you could also tie those ministry teams to specific events in the system as well. And even, you could go deeper into that and have like certain rooms that need to be scheduled, and build out a calendar from that. Equipment. Um, we even have integrations with things like eSpace, which is building management and HVAC management. So if you needed to turn down a room temperature to a chilly 68 degrees a half hour before you get in there, it's possible through integration with eSpace as well.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all kinds of different things that you could do with it. It's a highly customizable system, or it could be as simple as you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the permission level, from what I
Mhm.
understand, if one of our listeners might be just a ministry leader, there's all kinds of permission levels
Sure.
that a parish can give so that you as the ministry leader, if you're listening right now, or you as the parish administrator can provide to ministry leaders. Again, just so all the information is centralized, right? Like those who are involved in the Bible study, it's in this one system and it's tracked to the household,
Correct.
right? It's
Yep.
connected. So you don't have different ministries with all these separate lists and not knowing in your main parish database who's participating.
Yep.
But in this one, now we know all those who have participated and are key leaders. To me, I guess I just keep coming back to that, Matt, because I think that is just so huge, so huge. The
Yeah.
other the other thing I think is important. Now we'll geek out a little bit for the finance part of it. Finance committees and stewardship
Mhm.
committees, and you know, looking at um, the household given and how do we set goals uh, in terms of um, maybe envelope versus online giving, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, so Ministry Platform can also manage your what we call donor management, right? Or your giving, whether that is online giving. We have a number of integrations with Ministry Platform. There are a few key providers that not only do the online giving, but can process payments for events and things like registration for formation classes, things like that. Um, but also, automatically put that on to a person's record if they give online, to where it goes directly to their record, so you don't have to key in that information. So that's an amazing task right there that could be eliminated, right? A very time-consuming task. And then things like, um, you're still going to need to enter cash and check contributions from offertory and in other areas, envelope entry, things like that. It could all handle that, as well as, if you're running checks with the check scanner, that could greatly reduce your time for your batch entries, and even remote check deposit. So all of these are available as options within MinistryPlatform. And
Mhm.
and then, things like donor management, as far as like looking at year over year analytics, and what you could do with those, extending that to those percentages of what you saw in activity. You could also tie that to donor activity as well. So maybe if they hit a certain donor level, you could have an email generated to them as a notification, as a customized thank you email going out to certain people that give, say, like $5,000 or $10,000 for a certain pledge or appeal campaign at
Mhm.
the parish level or at the diocesan level.
Mhm.
At the diocesan level, you could really measure what's going on at the parishes, because you'd have a view of that if needed, based on permissions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you keep talking about metrics, one of the things that I'm thinking about that I know finance committees talk about, maybe not necessarily implement as often as probably they could or should, is this whole idea about reaching the younger generation who give more through that scan and a QR code,
Mhm.
um, than the traditional, hey, I'm a registered parishioner, I want envelopes, or I'm a registered parishioner and I have already signed up for online giving. There's a number of, and I have these conversations with pastors and other uh, key leaders out in the who work in Catholic parishes. There's a number of young adults who go to your parish, and they're not necessarily registered, but they actively worship there, and they don't necessarily have a way of giving. But if they saw a QR code, they'd scan it because this is how they, my two boys, they're in their mid 20s. They only use their phone to pay for things.
Yeah,
You know,
they're not exactly carrying around checkbooks these
they're
days.
not carrying
Right?
around checkbooks.
Honestly, I'm not either.
Yeah.
But I know there's still going to be a certain need for that, and that's why we still have the ability to enter those manual checks and
Yeah.
run those checks through the system. But yes, it is definitely growing. Um, the online giving portion and things like QR codes, that's growing substantially.
Hmm.
And so that's going to be the way of the future in terms of giving and communications going forward,
Hmm.
is, having the ability to give them that option to scan something really quick, whether it's on your literature, whether it's up on the screen. They could take their phone, get out their photo portion and scan that, and it takes them to your giving page.
Hmm.
We can help out with that. So
Yeah.
through our MPE giving portion, you could certainly set up those configurations. You could do text to give, or you could put a link to your website on there and give through uh, that option as well, and then it automatically goes into their record. Even if it's a new parishioner, they would have to fill out some basic information, so you could track that end of year statement. But basically, it would create a default record in the system, and it gives you an opportunity to follow up with them throughout the year.
Hmm. Yeah. And one of the metrics I'm thinking about in terms of, okay, that QR code during the special liturgical moments, Christmas, Easter, even Lent, Advent, um, where you have people who, the Catholics who are coming, but aren't coming all the time, but yet you think about creating an initiative. Hey, let's see if we can encourage them to give in some way, right? Let's just say a parish comes up with that initiative, and there is a QR code that's put in. I'm just gonna think of an example in the narthex right now,
Mhm.
and we're gonna see if people are willing to give because they came,
Yep.
right, by scanning something. From what I'm hearing, which really excites me, is Ministry Platform can help you see the success to that one particular initiative. Now, what I love about that is, hey, we tried it this way. This was our response. Now, if we try it another way, let's see if a different message is going to be more effective or less effective. That's
Yep.
the power of this tool, right?
Yeah, because it would capture that data point, right? So you could measure those analytics going forward. What was successful, what wasn't successful. Hey, let's try something else, or let's keep on going with this because we
Hmm.
had a really great response
Yeah,
off of this. So, let's try this again.
yeah,
And coming down the road in the future, it's going to be we actually have finalized a partnership with I'll wait until we could announce that, but basically it will have the ability to process things like crypto, um, stock, 401k, retirement plans, things like that as well. So just other ways. Obviously, there's other avenues that you could use now. It's something that's newer to Ministry Platform, but it just gives you another option to be able to give as your heart
yeah,
tells you.
yeah. Well, I know for myself, Matt, I could sit here and we could talk more and more and continue to geek out as on
We
this
could go on for hours.
platform, and I can think of so many different other ways that I could ask you about the effectiveness that this has for parish and how to help move the needle a little bit for mission. Um, uh, so there's what I have other questions. I don't
Sure.
want to keep this going, but what are some recommendations that you would provide to some of the listeners? Because see, I see this covering every aspect of parish life.
Yeah.
And that's what has really intrigued me because there's multiple databases out there that makes it challenging for parishes.
Sure.
But I see this covers every area of parish life in one database. What would be some recommendations that you would have for some of our listeners? And all the recommendations we'll make sure we put in our show notes. But what are some of the recommendations you would have for some of the some of the listeners to think about?
Sure. Yeah, I'd say definitely do the research. We have a wonderful website, acstcatholic.com. And I think I shared the link, or I could share
Yeah.
the link with you. And there is a wealth of information on there on, things like resources for Ministry Platform as well as Mission Insight and for dioceses and parishes, as well as some blogs, testimonials, webinars that are upcoming. So you can visit that. We have a YouTube channel. It is ACST Catholic. I'll share that link with you as well. We have an upcoming webinar, which is the second part of that series. It's going to be called Beyond the Dashboard.
Mm,
We're having that June 2nd. It's going to be Terry Papalavla, our general manager at ACST Catholic, along with Erica Booth and Katie Herzing. They're both ministry platform coaches, and they'll be going through, just other ways that you could use those data points as well.
mm, mm.
And then you could always schedule an appointment with me and
Yeah.
chat with me and be happy to speak to you and help answer any questions that you have. My email is going to be Matthew, Matthew, at acst.com, or you could contact me by phone, 843-413-8435.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and in a short while, I'm going to be speaking with on Mission Insight as
Yes.
well. So
Yep.
that's going to be a great podcast as well. And um, that's the other thing that we didn't touch upon, but you certainly can help people understand is that you have a whole team of consultants
We
behind
do.
this. It's not, this isn't about the parish getting the platform and then good luck. This is about you guys really helping people be successful with this for the mission.
Yeah, and it's not just as you had mentioned, it's not just you know, turn on and you're off to the races and good luck.
Right.
We walk with you through this process, start to finish, from your data conversion coming over, whether it's from PDS or one of our ACS products, to a third-party data conversion that comes over. We want to ensure that your data is correct in the system and it's what you want. We will offer you training as well to go through the entire process based on your scheduling, as well as helping you configure different areas of MinistryPlatform that are going to be important to you. You
Mm-hmm.
know, whether that's religious ed, communication, those dashboards,
Mm-hmm.
right? Externally, what kind of messaging and design and logos you want on things like your your widgets or your mobile app, which is available as well. And then we configure that for you and continue well after you go live with support, different webinars that we host, training boot camps that we have, really ongoing training and leadership and consulting for you, just to help you with your walk.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, Matt, for joining us and sharing your insights and challenging us to think about the way in which the platform could really help make the parish a little bit more effective with managing all the data that is important for us to understand and know for the mission. So, thanks so much for spending the time with us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Hopefully I could help out in any way.
Great. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless. Hey everyone, well, I hope that this episode encouraged you or challenged you to think a little bit more differently with how important data management can be for us and really help us to become stronger stewards of the information we have at the parish so that it can help us become more effective for the mission. So, as a reminder, all the links, please check out the show notes for any links that we provide down there for you to check out MinistryPlatform and to learn more about ACS Technologies. And if this podcast episode you found encouraging, please give us a thumbs up or a like. And I always encourage you to subscribe or hit follow, depending on if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this in your podcast. So thanks again for joining us. I look forward to being with you in our next episode. God bless.